And joining us now is Democratic Congressman Adam Smith of Washington State. He's the ranking member on the Armed Services Committee. Congressman, right now, U.S. aid, intel sharing with Ukraine on pause. And as we heard from Keir, the Trump administration is looking for more than just a mineral deal here. They want to see Zelensky change his attitude toward peace talks, including a willingness to give up territory to Russia. President Trump wants Zelensky to potentially step down. How do you see these requests? Are they in Ukraine's best interests? Are they in America's best interests?
They're in Putin and Russia's best interests. I mean, look, what Donald Trump has done since he's become president, he's not looking for peace. He's basically looking to cripple Ukraine so that Russia can win the war and take over Ukraine. There is no pressure on Putin and Russia right now. Meanwhile, President Trump is undermining Ukraine's ability to defend itself and showing Putin a big, fat target that he can just take. And we've seen the result. Russia has increased their attacks on Ukraine. They show no signs of being willing to reach a peace deal because President Trump has said, you know, you can have it all. So this is a really, really bad situation that President Trump has created that has weakened Ukraine and, frankly, made peace less likely. Okay, you need to get Zelensky to the peace table. Well, as Zelensky said, he didn't want this war in the first place. The person you need to get to the peace table is Putin and Russia, and Donald Trump is just opening the door wide for them so that they feel no pressure.
Well, as these talks get going, let's hear more from President Trump. Here's more of his framing.
He took money out of this country under Biden like candy from a baby. It was so easy with that same attitude. And I just don't think he's grateful.
Congressman, what do you say to Americans who don't want to see the U.S. keep pumping resources into what appears to be a never-ending war?
Well, I say that we need to get to peace, but the way to get to peace is to keep the pressure on Putin, not to take it off. Russia actually had been feeling the pressure. We've seen the statistics. The amount of military equipment and troops that they've lost in this conflict is high. Their economy is suffering. Inflation has gone up. Their entire economy now is dependent upon the war economy, which cannot last. There was pressure on Putin to come to the peace table before Donald Trump walked in and took all of that pressure off. We all want to get to peace in Ukraine. Nobody more than President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people, by the way. But we're not going to get there by telling Putin that he can have whatever he wants. And if Russia takes Ukraine, they're in a position then to threaten the rest of Eastern Europe and destabilize the entire European continent. And that undermines our interests. But again, I want to emphasize, you want peace, figure out some way to force Putin to come to the negotiating table and be willing to negotiate that peace. Let us not forget that despite Donald Trump rewriting history, Putin and Russia started this war. There would be no war without Putin and Russia's decision.
Well, speaking of pressure on Putin, I want you to hear from Senator Lindsey Graham this weekend.
Yeah, I am worried about cutting off intelligence and weapons to Ukraine as long as the fighting is going on. If we pull the plug on Ukraine, it'll be worse than Afghanistan. Until we have a ceasefire, I would give Ukraine what they need in terms of intelligence and weapons to defend themselves.
Do you agree with Senator Graham?
Absolutely. I agree with Senator Graham. I don't know why Senator Graham has been such a consistent supporter of President Trump, who is against everything that Senator Graham just said, and is in favor of letting Putin and Russia just run roughshod over Ukraine and Eastern Europe. So I'd like to see Senator Graham express that opinion directly to President Trump and stop supporting him so much as he guts Ukraine and gives Russia an absolute open door to take over Ukraine.
NBC News reported that some Trump cabinet secretaries challenged Elon Musk and his cuts in a contentious White House meeting. This was last week, and among them was Secretary of State Rubio. Trump denies any clash, but given that Rubio is a big piece of what's happening in Saudi Arabia right now, these conversations with Ukraine, given that background, what do you see as the impact as it applies to his ability to speak on behalf of the Trump administration? Can Ukraine count on whatever the secretary says to stick?
Yeah, well, two quick points. First of all, these are Trump's cuts to our government. Musk is implementing what Trump wants. For Trump to try to hide behind Musk, and this is the point, President Trump is in charge. This is happening because he wants it to happen. As far as what role Secretary Rubio plays in the administration, I mean, it all comes from Trump. And right now, Secretary Rubio does not appear to have a particularly strong hand. But again, all comes back to President Trump. President Trump is the one who's driving the surrender approach on Ukraine. President Trump is the one who is driving the gutting of our federal government, the cutting off of services to veterans, the ending of programs that are vital to people all across this country, the random firings that are undermining the efficiency of things like the FAA. This is President Trump's agenda. He needs to be held accountable for it.
Democratic Congressman Adam Smith, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.